No! 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 No!
Well, this is unfortunate. So somehow, after only 6 years, the Patriots were able to make it back to a Super Bowl, get a rookie quarterback, and get him to the Super Bowl in only 2 years, and do all this before the Steelers can even win one playoff game. I'm like, bro. So with everything I've just said in the past 27 seconds, you'd think that the Patriots are like a great team. Like, this is one of the best teams that the league's seen in recent years. Well, no. You see, the problem with the Patriots is that they arguably had one of, if not the easiest schedule we have seen in NFL history in recent years. So, to help bring down all the bandwagons Chiefs fans that have returned to the Patriots, and some Patriots fans that are also delusional by their incredible season, I'm going to review everything that happened over the season to help prove that this team is, that this is one of the biggest frauds teams in the NFL, and how they're going to get slapped in the Super Bowl, and my own personal conspiracy theory at the end. Now, let's start off with the first week. And the first week was pretty much expected for a team with a second-year QB and a brand-new coach. They played the Raiders, and they lost, somehow. And I already know everyone's going to be like, well, just because they lost to the Raiders and all that doesn't mean that they're frauds and all that. Well, that's just step one, okay? The Raiders had just gotten Ashton Genty, but they had absolutely no offensive line help out Genty whatsoever, holding him to only 38 yards. Honestly, this game only looks like they lost is because of Brock Bowers, and this being one of Geno Smith's best games of the regular season for him, throwing for 362 yards, a touchdown, and having one interception, which is much better than what we had throughout the season from Geno Smith. Moving on to week 2, the Patriots took on the Miami Dolphins, where they got their first dub of the week, and honestly, it was a lot closer than it should have been. But you could argue that this was a rivalry game, so terrible teams can beat great teams. It happens all the time. But what concerns me here is that Ramondre Stevenson was their leading receiver throughout the whole game. Sure, Drake May had 19 completions out of 23 attempts for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I feel like that's a glaring issue that we need to look at here, is that the Patriots' weapons are terrible. They don't have anybody to throw to. So how is a team that is like 14-3 doing this well offensively? Well, they're not. So how are they beating these good defenses? Well, I have a theory to that as well, but it's also inconsistent. The next week was where the Patriots got rocked offensively. Their leading rusher was Drake May, who was their quarterback, by the way. They played the Steelers. May, I'm pretty sure, was sacked around 9 times. It was just a rough game offensively for him. But despite that, the Steelers have a horrible offense, so they're not able to do anything with all these turnovers that they keep getting. So the Patriots kept getting bailed out and were able to stay in this game. But they were unable to do anything offensively because, like I said before, they just do not have the weapons capable of winning these games. In the end, Ramondre Stevenson ended up fumbling the ball twice. May lost the ball, and I'm pretty sure Trevion Henderson also lost the ball on a fumble, and then May also threw an interception, just showing how ruthless of a defense the Steelers had at the start of the year. So by this point, it's looking like the Patriots are going to have like a mediocre season, maybe going 9-8 at best. But the fans and analysts, unfortunately, couldn't have been more wrong. See, the Patriots decided they were sick of just losing all their games, so they decided to go on this massive win streak. Did they do great and put up good stats? Yeah, I say so. And Drake May was pretty much the MVP of the midseason. Were these up against great teams? Absolutely not. For example, the next opponent the Patriots had to play was the Carolina Panthers, who did make the playoffs this year, but that was only because their division was the sloppiest division in the entire NFL, and Bryce Young didn't really bring much to offer. Either way, it was still a mediocre game for Drake May. 14 passes completed out of 17, 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was really just offensive mistakes for the Panthers because they have a young, inexperienced team. So this blowout is also not only up against a terrible team, but it was also just a free win in general. Now, the next game, I have to say, was an actual team. They played the Buffalo Bills and only won by 3 points. It was actually a really good game. Drake May didn't have a touchdown, but he still had 22 for 30 and 273 yards. And I must say, up to this point, his completion percentage has been one of the best in the NFL, so I will give him props for that. Stephon Diggs had one of his better games this season, 10 receptions for 146 yards up against his former team. So, yeah, there's really nothing wrong here. So, I'm just going to continue forward. This was a legit win in my book. Now, the next game, you would say, is impressive. Drake May, 18 for 26, 261 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Looking like the MVP Drake May that everyone keeps talking about. Until you realize he played the New Orleans Saints, who have absolutely no defense. So, that's my problem with this one. And the funniest part I have with this is that they still almost managed to lose to the Saints. They only won by 6 points. And this was before Tyler Shuck, or Shao, however you say his name, was even the starter. They still had Spencer Rattler in. How do you nearly lose to Spencer Rattler? The next game wasn't any better. They played the Tennessee Titans. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a slander on Cam Ward. I genuinely think he could be the Titans' future. He just has a horrible team built around him. So we just need to give him some more time. So, and that's my main issue. The Titans don't have a team yet. They're still in the rebuild stage. So losing 31-13 was to be expected. Drake May only had 2 incompletions. He had 2 touchdowns and threw for 222 yards. That's really all I have to say about this one. He just played a rebuild team. It is what it is. The next game was against the Cleveland Browns, where it was pretty much the exact same outcome, just they got an extra point. May threw an interception. It's 3 touchdowns for him. Threw 6 incompletions somehow. Honestly, you should have a perfect game, 500 yards against the Cleveland Browns. Okay, that's some bias. I'm sorry. Anyway, player stats. If I go look at Myles Garrett real quick, he had 5 sacks this game. So you could say that Myles Garrett may have played an impact on Drake May's ability, but also at the same time, it's the Cleveland Browns, and Myles Garrett is literally their only player. So, yeah. And their offense was atrocious. Dylan Gabriel, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 156 yards, 21 completed passes out of 35 attempts. Was not very good. So, it really should be obvious why this was a blowout. Like, it's the Cleveland Browns. It's always going to be like this for them. Okay, so you'd think after that, the next team has got to be legit, right? The past 3 games were all, like, basically free games. Saints, Titans, Browns. Surely the next game is somewhat good, right? Well, the game was good, but the team wasn't. The next game the Patriots played was against the Atlanta Falcons, where the final score was the Patriots winning by 1 point, improving their record to 7-2, which would be a 6-game win streak up to this point. Michael Penix had himself a good game, arguably the best game he had the whole year. All of his touchdowns went to Drake London. Drake May didn't have his best game, but besides that, it was pretty solid of a game. But that's not what I'm here to cover. You almost lost to a team with little to no defense and a horrible quarterback that was then benched for Kirk Cousins later in the year. And you only won by 1 point. Sure, this is a Super Bowl rematch, you can say all that, but I'm not counting this as a legit team. I think this was just a hiccup for the Patriots at this point. It is at this point of the schedule where I run into the issue of the medical illness bug that took entire rosters out. For example, the 49ers. They got hit with the injury bug, lost like everybody. The Buccaneers were also no exception. At this point, I'm pretty sure they're down Mike Evans and Bucky Irving in this game. So their number 1 receiver was Emeka Egbuka, which carried the offense in receiving. And their rushing leader was Sean Tucker. So 28-23 to a pretty beaten up Buccaneers team is quite embarrassing at this point. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, don't worry. Even though it was a close game against an injury-riddled team, Shirley May had a great game. You'd be mistaken. It mostly went to Trevion Henderson as player of the week for the Patriots. 147 yards for 2 touchdowns, and that's just for rushing. Drake May just barely completed 50% of his passes. 16 for 31. 270 yards and 2 touchdowns, and throwing a pick on a pretty beaten-up team. So, even though the game itself was good, losing to a team that didn't even make the playoffs because of the injuries that they were already battling when you played them is also not really much of a good win. If they had all their players, and they still won, I'd say that's a legit win. But with the fall-off the Buccaneers had with all their injuries, I can't award them with this. Next team was the poverty franchise New York Jets, where it was 27-14. Justin Fields just couldn't do anything basically the whole time. And with our little superstar MVP Drake May here, he only had 9 incompletions out of 34 pass attempts for 281 yards, but only 1 touchdown to show for it. And keep in mind, this was after the Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner trade, so personally, I don't really see an excuse why you're not throwing the ball very well. Don't get me wrong. He threw the ball great. It's just I feel like we're lacking in some touchdowns here. Some of the drives did stall out, and they had to kick a field goal. 2 of them, actually. And I'm just not really seeing why that would happen with the Jets, especially when you have the 2 Titans that you got to play in the Super Bowl, the Seahawks and the Rams coming up. So, that's my concerns and something that other Patriots fans should be considering right before the big game, The next team, you can argue, they only lost because they didn't have Joe Burrow, but despite that, they still put up a good game. 26-20, Bengals did eventually lose without Joe Burrow. And the cherry on top, they didn't even have Jamar Chase. I'm pretty sure he was suspended for this game. So my thing is, how is the score so close? The Bengals should have absolutely no offense up to this point. They lose both their superstar offensive weapons. They have no defense. So you would expect Drake May to have a great game, right? 1 touchdown, 1 pick. That's what he ends with. The only good thing is he put up nearly 300 yards and a good completion percentage. So my thing is, how do you only win by 6 points to a team that is 3-7? Simple. The defense is overrated. The Patriots have Christian Gonzalez and Robert Spillane. That, I would say, is their top guys. Besides those 2 people, name one other guy. Now, if you're a Patriots fan, of course you're going to be able to name another guy because you watched this team the whole season. But if you're not a Patriots fan, I'm willing to bet you're having some issues trying to figure out who else would be good on the team. I don't want no random player. I want someone that's actually been good and, consistent with the team and has made efforts and, made improvements and also has made an impact on the game itself. So, that's my biggest concern. Their defense isn't good. It's just not. The next game isn't any better. Let me just remind y'all, up to this point, okay? Up to this point, the Patriots have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 non-good teams in a row. And they've also won all of those games. They have not lost any of those. And that team is the New York Giants, where they lost by, 18 points? 33-15. So Jackson Dart did play this game, but he was terrible. 140 yards for 1 touchdown because he doesn't have, Cam Ward, he's got nobody except Scatabo, who had, fractured his ankle. I'd say this is exactly what I'd expect from Drake May. He did fall short of 300 yards of 282, 24 of 31 passes completed, 2 touchdowns. It's a pretty decent game, 33-15 for offense, and the defense would obviously do great against such a horrible team. Nothing really much to cover except that the Giants are just terrible. They were 2-11 at the time of this game. So I just don't see any excuse that this was a legitimate win and not a competitive game. And finally, we get to add yet another contending team where the Buffalo Bills play the Patriots, and the Bills do win this one 35-31. Josh Allen had a pretty good game, 3 touchdowns, just short of 200 yards. Drake May was horrible, 14 for 23, 155 yards, and an interception, with Trevion Henderson basically carrying them and keeping them in contention. So, Buffalo Bills, right? That is a divisional team, so it could be either way with that, like I said earlier. So, again, not really much to cover except that this was a divisional game and that rivalries run deep. Next game was against the Baltimore Ravens, where Lamar was 7 for 10 for 101 yards. So, yeah, this is where I would say this is a bad team, right? Lamar has only Zay Flowers to throw to, and they really just heavily relied on Derrick Henry to win them this game because, just like me, they realize they don't have anybody on that D-line, and they can easily just run this ball. So that's what they did with Derrick Henry for 2 touchdowns. But they didn't realize that Drake May decided he wanted to be freaking Josh Dobbs in his prime and throw for 380 yards for 2 touchdowns for an interception. So, yeah, this did end up as a 28-24 game. It was a good game. But in the end, this really only happened near the 4th quarter. Would I say this is a legit team? You know what? Sure. Just because they just missed the playoffs, I'd say this is a legit team. Yeah, I'm going to cover this next one as quickly as possible. New York Jets. They destroyed the New York Jets 42-10. Drake May having his best season of the year, 5 touchdowns, only 2 incompletions against the New York Jets. So let's just move on. And finally, they played the Miami Dolphins, led by not Tua, but Quinn Ewers, because their season was over and they were just really, really willing to try anything at this point, where they destroyed them 38-10. And Drake May, 14 for 18, 191 yards and a touchdown. Now, you could argue this was the last game of the regular season. Maybe they rested him a little bit. Maybe had him not play as well as normal, like had him chill out, not as many deep balls, not as many throws. But even then, like, it's the Miami Dolphins. They have no corners. So, like, if he really wanted to, I'm sure he could have put up, like, 400 yards. And with that, we round out their season, regular season anyway, with 4 legitimate teams that they actually had to play. And some of those were just half teams. So, honestly, the rest of those wins were just against garbage teams. They should really only have, like, 4 or 5 legitimate wins. That just goes to show how easy of a schedule they had. But maybe it'll be better in the playoffs. Well, not really, because they got the 2 seed, which means they automatically play worse teams. And to help prove my point is the Los Angeles Chargers at the 7 seed, where they only could muster 3 points. And it's not like they have a horrible offense. They had a bust of a running back at Hampton, which is pretty disappointing. I was really hoping he'd do a lot better than what he did. Herbert was terrible, 19 for 31, 159 yards, and McConkey couldn't really get open. I'm assuming because they had their only good corner covering him. Drake May, 268 yards, touchdown, and a pick. Not really a great game from him. So, like, it was honestly like a mid-tier game. There's not much to cover, except that this also wasn't really much of a legitimate team for playoff standards. Because for playoff standards, you have to be, like, elite. You cannot just put 3 points on the board and call it good. The very next team would be the Houston Texans, who already weren't coming into this very great because their mascot decided to rip the terrible towel in half, and the terrible towel curse is very, very real. So, yeah, this obviously took a toll. C.J. Stroud, 4 interceptions in the first half, basically killed their game before it even got started. Drake May with 3 touchdowns. So, like, again, I can't call this a legit team just because, they were carried by their defense. And sure, you can admit the Patriots did great against that defense, but look at it this way, right? The Patriots only put up so many points because they got these turnovers in good field position. So the defense was constantly out on the field having to stop this offense because C.J. Stroud wouldn't stop making mistakes and killing the momentum of his own team. So, like, I can't really say that you have beaten one of the best defenses when you don't really receive a kickoff that often in the game. And it's mostly just from interceptions that you received in the first half. After that, the Patriots could only score another touchdown because C.J. Stroud finally figured out how to play a little bit and stop throwing interceptions. But I feel like if he could have prevented the interceptions, the Texans could have very easily won this game. But Stroud just couldn't play in the snow. Finally, the reason why I'm making this video, the Patriots knock out the Broncos and punch in their ticket to the Super Bowl. Only problem is, right, this was going to finally be a good team, like an actually really good Super Bowl contending team. Just one issue. Bo Nix decided to snap his ankle in half on a QB kneel somehow. So because of that, they had Jarrett Stidham start, and he basically handed them the game at the end. So, like, I can't even say this was a legit win either, because they didn't play a good QB. This guy, Jarrett Stidham, hadn't thrown the ball in over 2 years. And then the Broncos just, threw him in, starting him, expecting him to win in the AFC Championship game. Like, that was never going to happen. And then on top of everything, Drake May, who was horrendous, 10 for 21, 86 yards. Nothing after that. It was 10-7. The game was horrible. You can argue that Mile High, being one of the best fan bases in the NFL, played a role. But even then, it's still not an excuse to say that this team deserves to be in the Super Bowl. And I really think they're going to get smacked in the Super Bowl because they just don't have the talent in all the positions that they need to win it. And finally, my conspiracy theory, okay? There's absolutely no way the Patriots win against either the Rams or the Seahawks. They have just too good of a team. But with what happened to Bo Nix, I'm assuming that Matthew Stafford's either going to have his back broken because he had, like, back issues at the start of the year, or Sam Darnold's oblique is going to cause him to be out during the Super Bowl. Like, that's just what's going to happen. I can see it now. Patriots are Super Bowl champions. Biggest frauds in the NFL. Anyway, that's all I can really talk about until the Super Bowl comes around. But, yeah, go Seahawks. That's who I'm rooting for. And if the Rams make it, then go Rams. I can't have the Patriots win another Super Bowl, please. No, please. Not this soon, please.